Racial segregation is two words that come to mind when you think about the mid-1800s. Millions of people were affected worldwide, and they were restricted in many ways by the government. My question is, why would the government enforce something so restricting, especially towards people of a certain race? I know I wouldn't. The law stated as follows: we restrict people of color from entering public schools, public transportation, restrooms, restaurants, and even drinking fountains. Whoever heard of this? Absurd. Frederick Douglass was a famous abolitionist, and he was a slave himself, and he stated, "Knowledge makes a man unfit to be a slave." By saying this, he's saying that people should not be judged by their color of the skin, their physical features. They should be characterized and loved for their character. Now, the problem for racial segregation mainly started with the Jim Crow laws, the validation of it. It came into existence in the 1950s, during the Civil Rights Movement, as many people know it for. About 100 years later, after racial segregation. And now our U.S. president, our current one, as we all know, has stirred the flames for racial bigotry. He stated the following about blacks: "Laziness is a trait in blacks." It really is. I believe that. Why would someone in this day and age think that this is acceptable? It's morally wrong. People of color were affected in many negative ways. They were belittled. They were harmed both physically and negatively. Unfortunately, most commonly, they were hung, they were beaten to death with objects, they were tarred and feathered, and even till this day, shot with guns. And it's hard to believe, but this happens every day, all over the news. If you turn to your daily news channel, you'll see it. It happens every day, and unfortunately, the law and the government itself is not enforcing for this horrible actions to be stopped. Please stop it. People, as well as the government, believe that racial segregation was morally right. You can see it in our past history. Although it is not as prominent as it was back in the day, it still exists. It's just in a roundabout way. Many of the causes for racial segregation started back then, like I said, in the mid-1800s. The Jim Crow laws, the KKKs, if you don't know what that was a group that still exists in this day, but it was a group of people that were racist, morally racist, and they believed that people of color should be killed and not given rights of normal human beings. And our current U.S. president, it doesn't help the fact that he's making racist comments, because now people think in this day and age it's okay to be racist. But really, it's not. And like I said, no one is doing anything significant to help stop it. We need people that are courageous enough to speak up for what's right. Yes, we had Martin Luther King. That was very impactful. But what significant speech do we have in this day to help stop racial segregation? Not many that I can remember. For the solutions, Harriet Tubman was somewhat of a solution for slavery. She freed black people so they can run away from slavery. She made the Underground Railroad. The Underground Railroad was a network of people, African American, as well as white, that offered shelter and aid to escape slaves from the South. She believed slavery is not right. People of color should have the same rights as whites. And as we know, the world would never be the same without her. She stood up for what she thought was right. And it is right that people of color should be treated fairly and not abused and used. Here's a motivational quote from Harriet Tubman. She stated the following: "Every dream begins with a dreamer. Always remember, you have within you the strength, the patience, and the passion to reach for the stars to change the world." The last thing I would like to leave you with is a quote that concludes. The quote stated as follows: "MLK Jr. taught me how to say no to racial segregation. I hear him saying now, when you straighten up your back, no man can ride you. He said, stand up straight and say no to racial discrimination.
How long does it have to be?